And we welcome you to this edition of Night Shift, a special edition here. Eric Lopez alongside the man, the guru, when it comes to bowl projections. Andrew Gluchov, ladies and gentlemen, the man who's had it since November 8th. The UCF will be going to the Boca Raton Bowl, which was made official today. Take a bow, sir. Take a bow. There you go. Before we start, we're going to talk about, obviously, what the UCF going to the Boca Raton Bowl means, plus some news that will affect that matchup a little bit. It was that neither Andrew or I knew about when we did our last bowl projections. We'll talk about that and much more. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page and leave us a notes there. And then obviously make sure you also check us out like us on Facebook as well as on Twitter right there. And then of course our website, UCF Black and Gold Banneret.com. All right, so let's get to the news here. Monday, it was announced officially that UCF will be going and accepted the bid to go to the Boca Raton Bowl on December the 22nd. The game will be on ESPN on Tuesday. Interesting news, Mr. Gluchov. We'll get to that in a moment. But first, we've done this projection since, November 8th, right? November 8th was the time that we did it. And you've stayed consistent. So I give you all the credit. I kind of try to make a counter argument for the Cure Bowl. Not successful. Nonetheless, here they are. It's official now. They are in the Boca Raton Bowl. Your initial reaction now that it's official?
Well, I mean, it made sense. Yeah, I've been pushing it since day one. It just made sense. In the new bowl contract cycle, which we started in 2020, the American is focusing not on a pecking order, but on geography and expense management. And now you have these new pools that are being used. Instead of just two conferences, now you have three, maybe even four conferences vying for spots in the same bowl game. You're just guaranteed X number of spots. So the American was guaranteed 7 bowl slots out of this plethora of games with like the Military Bowl, the Fenway Bowl, and I believe it was wasn't the Armed Forces Bowl, but I forget the third one off the top of my head. I think it was the Birmingham Bowl. And those were the guaranteed ones that the American had a exclusive contract with. But the rest of them were all rotating or pool games, including the Hawaii Bowl, the Boca Raton Bowl, the Cure Bowl, et cetera. Well, as I alluded to, at least, the Hawaii Bowl, we've had cancellations. This is the COVID world that we're dealing with. And we saw it with the Armed Forces Bowl, where due to cancellations of all the Pac-12 bowls, they only, including that one, only have 4 left. They're seeing some conference affiliation shuffling, and it's coming out of left field. There's no indication that these things are changing. So, it's really hard to plan for. We didn't see the Armed Forces change coming in. We didn't see the changes that the Boca Raton Bowl is doing. But going based on the knowledge that we have, there was a logical flow as to Boca Raton and UCF being a really good matchup. You have the fact that it's local. It's within the state. It's what UCF always wanted, especially in the COVID environment. They didn't want to leave the state. They were in the Gasparilla Bowl last year. You can nix that one off. They've been in the Cure Bowl before, and ideally, they want to try to get something new. Florida Atlantic up for a bowl game. Problem is, they were in the Boca Raton Bowl very recently. So they don't, you scratch that one for them. You're not going to have UCF versus FAU. That's really bad for business. Part of what bowl games do to promote themselves within the community is to promote business usage, hotel usage, and a variety of other things. If you have 2 teams that can basically make a day trip out of it, you lose a lot of that economic impact. So you're going to want at least one school that travels enough that they have to stay somewhere. So that's why UCF FAU wasn't a viable option in Orlando or in Boca. So since Boca was already an FAU, spot as far as a bowl game recently, it was just process of elimination. Boca Raton and UCF.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And of course, UCF has statements on their website, as you can see right now, been showing at UCFKnights.com. But look at this part right here. UCF will meet an opponent yet to be determined, likely an Atlantic Coast Conference team. Game at 7 p.m. on Tuesday on the 22nd. Obviously, the game will air on ESPN and nationally, and as well as radio-wise on ESPN Radio. The game has been approved for 20% stadium capacity, and there's more details about that. Danny White had a quote, "We're excited to continue our season in the Boca Raton Bowl, a great location for our fans and families to see us play," says Danny White. Our football team in 2020 has been one of the most exciting to watch in the country, and the fact we will be playing in the postseason for a 5th consecutive year speaks to the consistency of our program. Josh Heupel was quoted in this press release. "Our players and staff are excited to be in this bowl game. It gives our guys one more time to play together and gives us one more chance to go 1-0. We've done a lot of good things this year, and we look forward to the next opportunity." Now, let's talk about, Andrew, to me, the interesting deal that we didn't know going into this Monday, and that is that the likely opponent is going to be from the ACC. That is certainly a difference maker there. What's your reaction to when you heard that? Because we've been projecting since we both started this in November 8th that the opponent would be either the MAC, probably the MAC conference champion. I knew then we pushed Liberty, but now the latest is it's likely that's going to be an ACC opponent.
Well, and that goes back to what I was saying about the Armed Forces Bowl and the Pac-12. Pac-12 only having 4 bowl games. So the ACC has had 3 canceled on them. They've lost the Pinstripe Bowl. They've lost the one in Detroit that's name is escaping the Motor City one. And there was another one that they dropped. The Sun Bowl has also dropped out. So you've got multiple bowls already that the ACC has lost. And being a Power 5 conference, there's a priority for them as opposed to a G5 conference. So, enter ESPN, who has inventory right now. They've only lost 2 of their bowl games so far, the Bahamas and Hawaii, strictly for travel reasons. And they've already moved the New Mexico Bowl to Frisco, Texas, because they know that destination is going to be fine. They already have another game there. So, this is a very good opportunity for the ESPN Bowl to gain a little bit of stature. This is a best case scenario for UCF because chances are, and I would be willing to put a little money on this. The Boca Raton Bowl is going to be the bottom of the barrel as far as the ACC bowl games, and that's fine. You're still looking at a Pitt, or I think Virginia Tech is going to be more likely going there, and you're still getting a quality P5 opponent, which UCF wants for stature reasons. While you do sacrifice on-field quality, you're not getting a ranked Liberty squad. I think the fans will appreciate a P5 school a little bit more, may help with television ratings, and that basically makes a win all around. With Liberty most likely not going to Boca Raton, I expect them probably to stick around in Myrtle Beach at that point.
Well, yeah, and especially, right, I tend to agree with that. I just posted up here, Brandon Helwig, obviously from UCFsports.com, our good friend, posting with Joe Giglio, who covers the ACC up there in North Carolina, who's a newspaper writer. He's posting. He's very good at this. He's very well connected in the ACC. So that's why I wanted to post this, because he's got his little projections here, and I think you could all see it. This is his projections as of right now, and it's based on the result of the Notre Dame Clemson game. And obviously that's going to be a significant game on December the 19th. But he kind of goes through the scenarios. What if Notre Dame wins? What if Clemson wins? And you see he kind of goes down the order as far as where the ACC teams might end up. And I want you to see what your reaction to this is, Andrew, when you consider he's got Wake Forest right now for Gasparilla. So we're going to see them in Tampa Bay, and he's got Boston College now at the Military Bowl, which was a spot where I think you and I had I had Virginia Tech there. Who did you have on for the Military Bowl?
Boston College.
Yeah. So you and him are on the same page on that. And then the Orange Bowl, North Carolina and Miami, the cheese. That kind of makes sense. I think it's going to end up being Miami and the Orange, unless Clemson loses to Notre Dame, which he kind of brings up that scenario. And then you see it right there. I figured it out. The Boca Raton Bowl, if Notre Dame beats Clemson, he's projecting Virginia to play UCF, Whereas if Clemson beats Notre Dame, he's projecting Pittsburgh. Now, he is kind of projecting both Clemson and Notre Dame to be in the playoff. That's not a lock if Clemson were to beat Notre Dame, but that's what he's projecting on. So Virginia, if Notre Dame wins, Pittsburgh if Clemson wins. Your reaction to that projection?
It's not wrong. I mean, I didn't have Wake Forest in the Gasparilla. I had them playing in Texas. But I mean, with things in such flux right now, they can change really quickly. Their season's not over yet. That's the big thing. That's one reason why UCF was able to accept their bid.
Here's the thing. I'll finish your thought here because Trace has asked this question. Bryson Turner said he's heard Virginia and Pittsburgh. Trace asked, how late could it be before the opponent's announced? We may not know who UCF's opponent is until after that ACC championship game is played on the 19th. We may not know until that Sunday the 20th.
I disagree with you, and only for the fact of they have to, get an opponent in there sooner or later. They're going to have to draw the line at some point. All right, who's not going to be in the championship game. So someone's going to have to be a sacrificial lamb, take a dive, and pull themselves out of that rotation and just say, we'll go to Boca Raton because, you need to give teams, a fair shot at game planning. It wouldn't be fair for the ACC to be able to allow these teams to plan, okay, you may go to the Boca Raton Bowl. It means, Pitt, Wake Forest, Virginia, Virginia Tech, any of these schools can start game planning for UCF on that possibility of going there. UCF has no idea who they're playing against and basically would have to plan against 4 teams. That's not right. That's not fair.
Well, the tricky part about that, Andrew, though, is there's a rippling effect with this Clemson-Notre Dame game. If Notre Dame beats Clemson in the ACC title game, Clemson's not going to the playoffs. So now they go to the Orange Bowl, and then other teams have to drop. Whereas if Notre Dame, Clemson beats Notre Dame, there could be a scenario where you have 2 ACC teams. What if Notre Dame gets left off? So I think that's going to be a little tricky here. How do you slot them? Now, my suggestion would be you need to take care of, and I think this is kind of where you're going with this, you need to take care of the Boca Raton Bowls, the Gasparillas. You need to kind of just pick a team and get it over with, and then you can maybe juggle the New Year's Day bowl games if you have to, right? That's how do we have to solve this, right?
Oh, absolutely. I totally feel that way. Someone's going to have to take a dive, but I disagree with them. If Notre Dame loses, they're not going to the CFP. They're not going to the playoff.
Oh, you really see why?
Why not? If they lose, no, there's no way.
Even if they lose a close game, who's getting in over them? Now, let me give you this scenario. If Alabama beats Florida, Ohio State makes it to the Big Ten title game, they overturn it or they just get picked, whatever. They get picked. And then Clemson beats Notre Dame. Who's the 4th team? It's got to be Notre Dame. Who else would it be?
That's when you start really hearing a lot of heat about Cincinnati. There's an asterisk right now on Notre Dame because of how they beat Notre Dame.
You'd be Clemson,
considering, how Notre Dame defeated Clemson. There's definitely an asterisk on that because we all know who was missing from that game. That's why they're basically neck and neck. One's ahead of the other because of the one next to their name. But I mean, the truth is, Notre Dame's always been one of those teams. They have to run the table. If they lose, I can't see them sticking in. There's too much competition. And the thing is, when you have Texas A&M and Florida, so Florida will probably end up with a second loss. However, Texas A&M can end up with 1 loss. A&M can easily jump a 1-loss Notre Dame team.
I don't know about that one. We may disagree on that one. I mean, a lot will depend on how the game is played and things like that. I just find it hard to believe they're going to leave Notre Dame out with the TV brand. If they lose, especially if they lose a close game to Clemson. Now, if they get blown off the field, now you might be onto something. You mentioned Cincinnati. I'm the big pro Cincinnati guy, but they got to take care of Tulsa potentially twice, which that's not going to be easy in itself.
No.
So it's that's why I'm surprised they're going to try to play it twice here, but I'm wondering if they will. I'll believe it when they kick it off. They're scheduled to kick off at 4:00 on Saturday. But needless to say, because of these scenarios, there could be some flux with some of these bowl games with not a lot of time. So I would think you got to pick a team. You're right. To your point, there's a bunch of teams that know they're not in the mix. This is one of those years where the records don't matter. So to me, it's like, all right, who wants to go to Boca? Who wants to go to Gasparilla and figure it out? And then if you have to tweak the bowl games later, because Notre Dame, let's say, doesn't make the playoff or does make the playoff, or Clemson makes the playoff or doesn't, then you can maybe adjust it and it buys you an extra week. But I would hope that's the case. I hope we literally are not sitting watching the game on December 19th, still having no idea who UCF's opponent. That would be something, but it is 2020, so you never know.
That would be some. And one of the things that is of note that I find interesting on those projections is the fact the Montgomery Bowl, which is supposed to be an ACC bowl, isn't listed. Now, in our bowl projections, you took the ACC out and I left them in. So I find that to be a little bit interesting. The Montgomery Bowl being the 1-year replacement for the Fenway Bowl, which is an ACC-AAC matchup. I had the Virginia Cavaliers going to that one. I viewed it as slightly higher in the pecking order than the Boca Raton Bowl. So that's one reason why I don't have Virginia as a team going to Boca. I think that's why I still have it Virginia Tech Pitt. But I just find that to be very interesting. I have Wake Forest in the first responder poll, which is a pool game between the Big 12, ACC, and AAC. And I had the ACC in that one because of all the cancellations. With Boca Raton becoming an ACC bowl, that could take the first responder bowl, which is played in Texas, out of the equation. We posted our last projections on Sunday, and this news coming out Monday kind of throws a little hook there. But I want to highlight some. Eric Edwards mentions, and he's absolutely right. You got to move your equipment down there, so you need a few days in advance.
Yeah, tell that to BYU, who agreed to play Coastal on Thursday and then got there for Saturday. Maybe could we be? I mean, is it crazy to think that we might see a similar situation with some of these bowl games where they literally don't know the opponents for up until 2-3 days before a game? We just saw this with Coastal and BYU. It was insane.
I don't think so. I think if the game doesn't work, it doesn't work. But the truth is, the December 19th is your first bowl game. It was scheduled for first game, and that's the Frisco Bowl, and that's still on the schedule right now. But obviously, there's no team from a P5 conference going to be in that.
Yeah, with all due respect, if I'm playing a bowl game on the 19th, you might want to consider moving that. There's this thing, they're going to be playing all these championship games on Saturday where I'll be paying attention to. I'm surprised that some of these bowl games haven't been moved to a different date, but maybe they will. Who knows?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I can't speak for ESPN, but every game that's still on the schedule is still on their original scheduled date. So the fact that these games were scheduled when the conference championships were looking at more December 12th, not the 19th. And now they're all on the 19th because they need the extra days to be able to make up lost games because of COVID cancellations. Now it becomes a little bit awkward because you're right. You have the ACC, the AAC, the SEC, the Big 12, Big 10. They're all going to be at the same time. Where's the Tropical Smoothie Cafe Frisco Bowl going to be played as far as time slot? Channel. It's supposed to be on ESPN. They can't take that away. It's contractual. So something's got to give. And I agree with you. I think the bowl game is going to have to eventually move. Boca Raton is one of the first games on the 22nd. Maybe you move it to the 22nd. You put it on ESPN2 against the Boca Bowl. There are numerous games that do have similar time slots. The Gasparilla and Cure Bowl played at the same time on the 26th. We have New Year's Day games that play against each other all the time. So something's got to give.
You would think. Let's talk about this from a UCF perspective now. Obviously, from an opponent standpoint, right now, what's your gut feeling as we do this? And I'm not going to hold it against you if you change your mind by the time we do our next prediction next weekend. But right now, who do you want to see UCF play, and who do you think UCF will play? How about that?
Well, the overall consensus of fans is they want revenge on Pitt, and I can't blame them. They're both – any of the teams they play are very winnable games. I like Virginia Tech because it was one of the best places I ever went to watch a football game, and it was just a lot of fun. And to bring that team down there, so it would be interesting. UCF and Virginia Tech have played each other a few times. UCF Virginia – I don't recall ever seeing the two teams play against each other. I don't think they have.
I
So
don't.
that would be
I can't think of it. And to be honest with you, that's kind of why that's my pick, because that's kind of fresh, new. I mean, Virginia Tech, Pitt, they're all the same, which is why I kind of agree with you. They should just pick one and just move on.
flip a coin, just like draw a straw. Shortest straw goes
Right.
to Boca. I mean, oh no, I'm going to Boca Raton in December. Oh, that's so awful. It's like a vacation.
I would like Virginia, Bronco Mendenhall. They've actually been playing pretty well down the stretch here. They were in the ACC championship game a year ago. They played in the Orange Bowl a year ago against Florida. Virginia Tech, Justin Fuente, obviously I guess you could argue that's the bigger brand name. I mean, they've been terrible recently. They've lost like 4 in a row. They got blown out by Clemson. I don't see the Pitt thing happening personally. I mean, I could be wrong on that, but I mean, the revenge factor, at least you have a storyline there for whatever that's worth. I think the good thing, and I'll give you credit for this, the big thing I think for UCF from a selling standpoint is you get extra practice, but the game is on the 22nd, which means you're done on the 22nd, which means the players are free to go for Christmas. Whereas,
not only
right?
that, but I do like the idea of having an earlier game this year as opposed to most other years, because there's less chance of COVID coming to take my game away. As we know, COVID likes cold weather, seems to thrive in it. And we've seen across the country that numbers are going up. So getting it out of the way sooner than later is not necessarily a bad thing. We want to have the game. The team wants to have the game. The players, I'd say the great majority of the players, as being pointed out, there's going to be guys who aren't. Richie Grant probably isn't. He's got an NFL career to worry about. Remember, bowl games are exhibition games. Yeah, you get trophies, and since the 1960s, they now use the term national championships. Well, then in the grand scheme of things, they're still exhibition games. So it's about the extra practices for the younger guys, the development towards next year, and just go out, have a good game, enjoy the best that you can make of it as far as the experience. And obviously, there's not going to be much experience this year, but take what you can get. I like the idea of revenge on Pitt. I really like the idea on the fresh opponent in Virginia. UCF's already beat Pitt before, so it gives an opportunity to add another ACC team of UCF's beaten that team before too.
I agree. Cosseg Advisor says Pitt is intriguing, but Virginia Tech or Virginia honestly will be cool. He also commented that it looks like Richie Grant is not going to play as expected. He signed with an agency along the Reese Senior Bowl, so now expect to see more Jermaine McMillan and maybe Quadric Bullard at safety next to Gaines. I don't know. I didn't know about that, so I mean, I'm not going to get it. But let's be honest here, Andrew.
Are you surprised?
Right. No, I'm not. I mean, I think there's going to be guys that will skip this game as they're right. And by the way, that's a lot of guys across the country are skipping bowl games. And I have no issues with it. I actually applaud it.
They've been skipping bowl games for years. I mean, they're exhibition games, and these are players that are working towards NFL careers. And, we've seen players get hurt in bowl games and cost them in the NFL. Go make your money, go get your money. You're in the Boca Raton Bowl. You're not playing for a national title. You're not playing for a conference championship game. It really is an exhibition game, but it's great for the young guys.
Well, and that's right. That's a big part of this, right? It's a lot of young guys will get to play in this game, get to practice. I think that's the big selling point on this game, and I'm okay with that. I mean, this isn't you're prepping for 2021 in a lot of ways, and this is the beginning of it. I'm okay with seeing a lot of young guys. Let me ask you this question though, because fans, we all complain about, the committee's biased towards Power 5 and the playoffs and this or that. And here we are admitting that we're probably more excited now that we're playing Virginia, Pittsburgh, Virginia Tech than we would have been if we were playing Liberty, or, the idea that I had last week, if you play in the Cure Bowl, you're probably playing the loser of the Sun Belt Championship game between Louisiana or Coastal Carolina, which I would argue is better than whoever we're going to play in Boca. But yet, I do think there's going to be more people interested because of the brand. So as us as fans, aren't we part of the problem that add to the perception that, hey, the big brands do matter, because we get more excited when a certain brand we come to our house or we play them, as opposed to maybe some of these teams like the Sun Belt that are really good. Are we kind of two-faced about it? I mean, what's your reaction to that?
Well, I found that there is a degree of double standard. P5 schools, especially higher level P5 schools, look down on the UCFs of the world, much like the UCFs are looking down upon the Coastal Carolinas or the Louisianas or the Appalachian states. There's definitely a pecking order of sort there, and sometimes you have to remind fans that you're being the thing that you've complained about, and it's true. Take a Coastal Carolina, really good team. They're legit, Nick, no doubt about it. They're having a run, a magical run that similar to UCF's 2017 run that no one really saw coming, but just has exploded, and it's fun to watch. They're easy to root for. A similar kind of rag to riches story. Then you have compared to a school like Pitt that is barely floating by. But the truth is, UCF fans, and this isn't a negative or anything, this is really any G5 school, will take the perceived value that comes from a P5 win over a G5 that's actually a better program. Liberty, Coastal Carolina, Louisiana, they would probably all beat Pitt, Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
But you want
Liberty beat Virginia Tech.
Well, yeah. Well, and if they played again, I don't know how that game would go. That game had
but they beat them. I mean, they were on the field. I mean, they played with them, right? It was a fluky ending. I get it, but it wasn't like it was like they were on the same field. They lost to NC State by like 1 point, and yet this. If we were right, and this would have ended up being UCF Liberty, we'd probably be getting a lot more negativity about this game than we actually are, because I think people are now intrigued by playing an ACC team. I just find that amusing. I'm not saying, and it's not just a UCF thing. I think that's a college football thing across the board. I don't think this, right? So I just find this amusing every time, because tomorrow night, the college football playoff will go, and everybody's going to scream about where Coastal's ranked and Cincinnati's ranked. And yet, as fans, we kind of do the same thing when we buy tickets to games or when bowl games are announced.
Well, I mean, it's funny. We complain about it, but we still consume it. So,
right.
Are we really making a difference? And the answer is an emphatic no. We just get sucked right back in, and
that's kind of right
all over again.
And that's why I don't get caught up in it, because I absorb it. I'm guilty. I watch it. I watch games. I watch the shows. I'm part of the party, if you will, and I understand the system. You may not like it. It's not perfect at all. I get it. I'm a pro 18 playoff guy, but I've said we're not going to get it until 2025. So I'm not going to stress about it now. Why am I going to? I mean,
it is what it is. They are who we thought they were. We know what the CFP committee is all about, and the fact that the goalposts move. It's subjective. It's the nature of it. The fact that you have nothing in there that's objective, thus makes it subjective. It's just reality. We got to accept it. And you can either deal with it, or you can cry about it some more and nothing will happen. You just stress yourself out. Yeah. Especially this year, I'm just happy we have football at all. And I'll go online. I'll say I'm just happy we have a season, and I'll get dunked on by some people for it. Because UCF still had 3 losses in games that they were winning, but I'm still overall happy we had a season at all of college football to enjoy, because it easily could have gone the other way and we had nothing.
And I would argue, if you're going to have a 3-loss season, this would be the year to do it, because this is a crappy year anyway. Like, as far as this is not one that we're not going to romanticize this year at all, right? Like, we're going to want to forget this year in general. I would rather have a magical year like we did in 2017, when the world was a better place at that point, not where we're at currently. So I'm just like you. I'm glad we got the 9. I'm stunned. I'm amazed we got 9 games in. To me, that's the biggest accomplishment for this team. Is forget the win-loss record, is the fact they got the 9 games in without any issues on their end. I think that's impressive because not many teams have been able to say that this year. So I think that's, to me, and those guys will remember going through that. So I hope the guys that do play in the bowl game have a good time. I'm not anti-bowl game. Some people think I'm anti-bowl game. I think there's too many of them. That's my only issue with it.
Well, this must be great because they've been chopping, they've been falling. I agree with you about the too many bowl games.
Make me sound like the bad guy. You got to be thrilled. It is what it is. Let me ask you this. Some people have chimed in on this. 6-3. They think you cannot afford to lose this game and have a fourth loss. You buying that? I've never been one that takes results of bowl games too much, take it with a grain of salt. Like last year, I got into this in the podcast. Oh, this Gasparilla Bowl is important. You want to get that 10th win and get to the top 25. And my argument is that's not going to affect how you do in 2020. I know that's a good narrative to say. Oh, well, you got your, this or that. This team, you remember, UCF lost to Arkansas State in 2016 Cure Bowl. I don't think that really badly. I was there. I would remember. That didn't ruin their 2017 season last I checked, right? Things turned out okay.
And I was going to say they ended up at 6-7 that year. I mean, the 10-win benchmark, that it's nice. It's great. And you always want it. But I mean, the truth is 6-3, 6-4, is it going to change your recruiting results? No. Is it going to change what happens between this year and next year? No. People who are going to stay are going to stay. The people who are going to go are going to go. I don't think it makes a lick of difference outside of numbers that look good. I mean, 7-3 is going to look a lot better than 6-4. That's the truth. And then you also get the hardware of a bowl victory. But as far as anything really material outside of some, a trophy, no, I don't think it makes a difference at all. If UCF loses the game, and this is where, it would be nice if they were playing against a team that was, a ranked team. Because if you lose to a ranked team, you can get it, well, they're actually good. But to lose to a Pitt or a Virginia, that's just embarrassing. They're not good teams. UCF is a good team that's had depth issues, but they're a good team that were a couple unlucky bounces away from being undefeated. If you've got these multiple narratives that you can take on the same thing. Right. It's kind of like meatloaf. You have it 3 dozen times, and you have 3 dozen different variations to it, and they're all good. You can have a variety of different takes on this one singular subject. None of them are wrong, but they're all different.
Yeah, I agree. But look, it'll be good to win. Hopefully they win. But if they don't, it's not the end of the world either. And that's probably.
2020 is a wash. UCF going into the season, the narrative was all the guys who opted out. I remember the first 2 games. Oh, there were 10 guys that opted out. They're in trouble. This is going to be a tough season for the Knights. And they went up against Georgia Tech. They started a little bit slow, picked it up, and cruised. But once they played against a team that had some muscle, the lack of depth started showing, especially against Memphis when the wheels just fell off. And there was nothing you could do at that point to stop the bleeding. But in the grand scheme of things, this was actually a good thing because now you have players with experience going into 2021, which, in my opinion, is slated to be a better season than 2020. You don't have quarterback controversy anymore. You have excellent talent still left. You lose a Richie Grant, you lose a Marlon Williams, maybe a Trey Nixon, but you still have great talent with Jalen Robinson and Cradle, and Jake Hescock has already said he's coming back. You have an offensive line that's going to have more experience and strength that was much maligned during the year. And then this defense that got absolutely just decimated from opt-outs, and then players getting dismissed from the program. 3 of those 4 players were seniors. So now you have underclassmen that got very valuable time. Freshmen had to step in and play in the defensive backfield. They're going to be primed and ready for a strong 2021 run. I'm excited at how this season went because it has set the stage for a better run next year. You can't win them all. And a lot of people don't want to accept this. You can't win them all. An undefeated season is really, really hard to do because so many games are one possession, one bounce is all it takes. But Sometimes you have to step back a little bit to step forward. This was a step back season, not through anyone's fault, because you can't blame players for choosing to opt out because of whatever reason, safety, family. You work with what you got, and with that, you don't have a chance to really re-recruit. So you work with what you have, but now you've got better cards in your hand to step forward into 2021. And I'm looking forward to seeing that UCF Boise State game next year.
Fingers crossed. We're in a better place at that point for opening night there. But look, hey, they're going to be playing another game. Boca Raton Bowl, December 22nd, 7 o'clock. Keep it here on blackandgoldbanneret.com. We're going to have more details as we cover this Boca Raton Bowl. That's going to be a big day, by the way, because UCF men's basketball will be hosting Cincinnati. Look for that to be a little earlier in the day. Prior to the football game. So it'll be a double dip of UCF athletics. It's going to be a busy day. We'll have cover. That's going to be busy, but we're going to have coverage from Boca Raton at the game. We'll have a lot of content between now and then. By the way, signing days next week in the middle of all this. So we'll have that. And then, there's that quarterback that entered the transfer portal last week. I don't know if you heard of him. Milton, his name is, I think.
Never heard of him.
Yeah.
Who?
Somebody, McKenzie might have been his first name. Some people have heard of him. People are interested where he. I think it's not sure. Andrew, on that note, tell the audience where they can find you, where they can argue with you, because I'm sure there's some people that will not agree with you on your last soliloquy about the season. Where they can ramble with you.
Well, you can find me on Twitter at StatBoyDrew. Bring it on. I love the banter and the discussion. Have at it.
That'll be fun. Of course, check out his work on blackandgoldbanneret.com, including the latest projections, the predictions of all the bowl games. We were on top of this since November 8th, where UCF would go to the Boca Raton Bowl. So we'll have coverage of that. We got Mackenzie Milton stuff out there on the site, including my article about what are the 10 destinations that Mackenzie Milton could be ending up at. We'll break that down, and obviously more on this throughout the week. We'll have our normal podcast later this week with Brian Murphy and Jeff and their thoughts on this Boca Raton Bowl announcement and the likelihood of an opponent for UCF. And we'll be on here as well between now and the bowl game. So just keep it there. Follow us at UCF_Banneret. Make sure you subscribe not only to the podcast and to the website, but also to our YouTube page. Congrats, Andrew. You nailed this one. You got this one right. Now we just got to see if you get the ACC team right. But that'll be the last word here. You're going with who on the ACC right now?
I'm going to go with Virginia Tech. I like the Hokies. Not that because they're a good team, because they're not. But I have a feeling that the ACC is going to have enough bids out there that the Hokies are going to find their way in there.
I'll go Virginia. So somebody from the state of Virginia. We're going with the state of Virginia. Somebody in the state of Virginia. I'm going to go with that for now. But we do have the right to change our mind when we write our next prediction. So don't hold it against us. All right. We gave you fair warning on that. All right. For Andrew Gluchov, I'm Eric Lopez. We hope you've enjoyed this edition of Night Shift. Until then, good night and charge on.